What's happening, Sales Ascender? Welcome to the Thursday High Ticket Tune-Up. Today is Thursday. I'm really excited to continue our body language in sales series, and we're continuing on with the eyes. The last couple of episodes have been around the eyes, in the eyes, what they're all about to mean, and today we're going to dive into the last part of the eyes. Stay tuned. Welcome again to the Sales Ascenders High Ticket Tune-Up. Today, I'm excited to be with you here. Make sure and smash that like button. And let's just jump right into it because this one's going to be good. We're continuing with part 3 of the eyes. And I think today is going to wrap up the entire thing around the eyes. So let's go. First of all, let's talk about closing your eyes. What does it mean when a prospect is sitting across from the table and they close their eyes, right? There's a number of ways that we can interpret this, but most of the time, closed eyes indicates blocking behavior. So if they're just straight up closing their eyes, they leave them there for a second, be careful. Ask them like, hey, I don't think that just made sense to you, and ask them to explain what they just shared with you. It reveals dislike, concern, disbelief, or worry, right? We don't want our prospects to dislike what we just said or be concerned about it, or have disbelief, specifically disbelief, because if you can't, if you say something that's unbelievable to somebody and it's just out of the realm of possibility, you've lost rapport. And if you lose rapport, guess what? You're not going to get the deal. And of course, worry as well. So those are a couple of the things. It also can emphasize agreement. One of the things that I do when I'm listening very intently is I'll actually close my eyes. And so closing the eyes is a bit contextual inside of the conversation, but just look for it because it's an easy thing to see on the face. And when you see it, call it out. If your gut is telling you, like their body language is telling you something wrong, stop what you're doing and ask a question. It's okay to do that, right? So now when you get somebody and they start rubbing their eyes, you've all seen people start to rub their eyes and like put their hands in their face like this and rub. What does that mean? Well, when people do that, it usually means transmitting concern or worry, and then they will give the excuse of, oh, I got something in my eye. But really, the underlying tone of this is there's concern or worry there. So be careful if you see someone start to rub their eyes in a conversation that you're having with them. And now the next one, I just did it, right? So when you're fluttering your eyelids like this, flutter, 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 right? It can mean one of two things. Number one, if it's in a sales context, it means they may be struggling to find words, right? And or if they can't find the words, then they can't believe what they just heard. So if you see somebody when you're speaking with them and you say something that's like an impactful statement and you see their eyes go like that, or even more, like more than 3 fluttered eyes, that means they didn't believe what just came out of your mouth. So it's a very easy indicator for you to be like, oh shoot, like I don't think that made sense to you. Let me try to reframe it. Maybe does that make sense? And I always try to go for confirmation in those types of moments. So I look for eye fluttering, I look for closed eyes, I look for people rubbing their eyes, and typically it means dislike or concern or disbelief or worry or any of these things. And so we just need to be aware that that's happening. Again, very powerful in a sales conversation. Let's move on. After closed eyes, now you know everything there is to know about closed eyes. And now let's talk about looking far away, right? When somebody's watching and talking with you and all of a sudden they look in another direction. Now, if you're in a Zoom call, this could immediately mean that they're multitasking or doing different things. This kind of gets on my nerves a little bit simply because like if you're going to be in a meeting, be there and be there and be now. But when people look away, it can mean a number of things. If they give a far off look, like, right? You think of that statue and you're just looking away into the distance, it means effective thought. So when you see them kind of tweak and turn their body and do that move, that's usually effective thought. Now, when people look sideways, right, when they're like kind of the GIF here, as you can see, it shows doubt, risk, disregard, suspiciousness, or contempt. And sometimes if it's in the dating realm, then it's like you're actually like peeking at a female or a male and then you get caught. And so you look away really quick, right? So there's that looking sideways move. That's kind of what you see here. But it does show doubt, disregard, suspiciousness, or contempt. So if people are consistently looking away, or you see them on a Zoom and they kind of move their face and they're looking over here, I would always question like, hey, do you have 2 screens over there? Because it doesn't seem like you're like with me right now. I've done that before. I call people out multiple times. It kind of embarrasses them, but at the same time, it gets their attention. It's a great pattern interrupt. And if you have the cojones to say it, I would encourage you to do it because it's something that's really powerful. Okay, so when they look sideways one way or another, they've lost, interest in what you're talking about, or they're showing doubt, disregard, suspiciousness, or contempt. So this means when you see that indicator, do a pattern interrupt, interrupt the pattern that they're going in right now, that you got to get their attention back. That's why I usually say, hey, do you have two screens going on over there? Or I just see your eyes kind of all over the place. And they'll be like, oh, no, sorry. And then boom, you've interrupted the pattern. You're back in rapport and you can continue going with your conversation, right? Now, but when people look off into the ceiling or the sky like this, right? So they look up, and then maybe they flex their chin up a little bit. This typically means bad luck, right? So it's an emotion that floods somebody from an action they just took. So imagine somebody's on the golf course and they hit a putt, a little short putt, and they're trying to get it in the hole and it misses. And they're like, arr, and they look up as if there's some divine power that made them miss the putt. This is interesting because people do this to relieve tension. It's so interesting. There's a little muscle in the neck that when you stretch up and then you flex your chin up, try it. Like that, you can feel there's muscles here that pull, and then there's a muscle in the back that stretches out, and that relieves that immediate anger and frustration tension. So when you see people doing that, that's usually what it is to relieve a little bit of stressful tension. The last thing I want to talk about today is squinting and widening, right? So when you squint at something, what does that mean in a sales conversation? So typically when someone says, when they squint, typically means displeasure or concern. So that's one thing to be focused on. Secondly, it means focus. So imagine if you're seeing this particular GIF, he's trying to really focus really hard on that little note. He might be mocking people a little bit, but it is for focus. And the other one is to block debris or sunlight if you're actually trying to see something, right? So that's the other reason why most people squint. And so how do we use this in sales, right? Well, when we see someone go like that, that means very quickly we need to stop. And again, most of these things, when you see them, stop and ask a question. Call them out on their body language. It's a technique that no sales coach will probably ever teach you. I'm sharing it with you because it's so valuable. You're like, hey, man, I just said that and I don't think it hit with you real well. So if they squint, again, what I do is I do a lot of mirror and matching. So if they squint, I go, it seems like that one didn't hit you quite right. Can you explain what you just felt? And struggle. And then your prospect will rescue you. It's just another subconscious move. It's a really, really good, that's a pro tip, by the way. So struggling on purpose is a very great technique to use. You should master it, right? Moving on to subduing anger. So a slight squint, is subduing anger, right? And this one is one of those micro tense moments. So in sales, when you're having a conversation with a prospect, what happens is you say something and it just triggers them out of this element. Whatever you said was the wrong thing to say. You're going to see their eyes do a quick squint and then go back to right? And it's almost like a wince. And this means that it hit them and it hurt them. And so again, we need to be very clear on reframing what we just said so that we can speak in a more communicative and clear way for them. And then lastly, widening today. Let's talk about right? You know that face. So it indicates stress or fear, oh no, I just forgot to do something, right? Or it indicates surprise. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so excited, right? So it can be, again, this is going to be a contextual one, but we just need to be aware of what it is. So when you see somebody go, oh, and then sometimes they do it faster than slow. Again, if you see this in a sales conversation, I would stop them and ask about it. It's important to do so. And I believe, so sometimes this is typically caused by external stimulus. So something out there is giving you, your receptors are receiving a message, and then this is causing you to act in this way. Well, that's it for the eyes, guys. I'm really excited. Hope this one was valuable for you. Please don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscribe to the channel, and do all that other good stuff. Turn the notifications on because we are moving from the eyes and we are going to move all the way into the ears starting next week. So be ready for that. I'm really pumped to see you next time.